Any minute now. Okay, I'm Chris. This is Home Movie Club for Hook.
Yep, I'm Derek.
I'm Terry.
I'm Katie.
All right. Initial thoughts?
And I'm hooked.
This movie,
Hmm.
you know, this movie had it. Some people will get worried that movies won't hold up to their expectations of when they were 11 and 12. This movie actually was better than I remember, um, and so yeah, I enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah. I think it held up and averaged out to be about as good as I remember it.
I um I think it was a great kids movie. I think it barely succeeds as an all ages movie, if that.
I definitely don't consider it an all ages movie.
Well, yeah, because it barely succeeded at that. It didn't beat it at all. um, but it's I don't know. Katie, thoughts?
It's been a long time since I've seen it, and I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
get a chance to rewatch it.
Mm.
All right. Well, I just mean there's a lot of feels in it, right? There's a lot of
Well,
emotional stuff going on, and not all of that's geared towards kids.
oh, so that's what you mean that it's not a good all ages movie?
Right. Because I mean, there are movies you watch that are made for kids, and then but if you're an adult, you're still getting something out of it. I don't just mean like nod and wink adult references to like balls or whatever. I just mean like
Why it's
there
always gonna
there
be
are
balls with you?
mature themes in there that an adult can appreciate, even if kids don't. So movies can certainly succeed on that level, like Monsters. Monsters did that well, but I don't think Hook really does. So in the end, it ends up be all ages and ends up feeling more like a kids movie.
So let me ask you this: like your definition of all ages is essentially a kids movie with adult references that both can have like a type of enjoyment. Is that what I'm hearing?
Not references, themes, mature acting, where it's something that maybe kids don't catch and aren't distracted by, right? But that parents and adults can see, do pick up on, and do understand as the theme of the movie. So
Interesting, because like when I saw this movie, I saw this movie when I was around 11, 12
Mhm.
ish originally, and I remember like the funny scenes, like the he's stealing second and gets shot.
yeah,
Like oh no, we have to play this, and like um, I understood that as kind of like in a basic video game reference, like oh the guy's down, like not that he was dead.
he's
But
murdered. That's high quality slapstick, by the way.
it is okay. Firstly, okay. Secondly, just because you mentioned that, what is his name? Bob Hoskins? Is that his name?
Bob
That
Hoskins,
was
yeah.
that was Smee.
That was me.
It just I fell in love with him all over again. Like I love him so much.
Really good.
He's
Yeah.
such a great actor. Like I've never like I even liked like I didn't think that Super Mario Brothers was like a great movie in general.
It
Like
wasn't good.
there was a certain amount of
Great.
fan service that was kind of appealing. But what was really interesting, what I did like about Super Mario Brothers was A, Bob Hoskins, and B, the setting. Like the way they
Yeah.
kind of constructed the setting. If you take all of like the forced canon that was shoved into it and just look at the setting for what it was actually kind of neat. Um,
I can
but
taste
anyway, yeah, like so, Bob Hoskins is amazing, and so anyway, like I remember I part of my memory of this movie has degraded over time, but part of it was because there are certain things that that didn't register. But I think the difference was that the things that I think are meant for adults aren't necessarily funny things, because I looked at this movie now as Peter Pan's a fairy tale, and
Yep.
then they had the fairy tale in the movie, and this is a story about a fairy tale that grows up. And
No,
that was
it's a legit take on it.
yeah, and that was interesting to me because like now I'm kind of looking at it in this kind of meta context. Like, yeah, what does happen if Peter Pan decides that he wants to, he loves a girl? Like there was some like real shit here that I kind of
Oh
appreciated
yeah.
on that level. and I felt like a kid would totally not get it. It's just funny and like, oh, look how pretty Tinkerbell is. Like, hey, look, all the kids are being rowdy. Oh, Rufio, Rufio. But it's great. Anyway.
But everyone, like, I usually resent it a little bit when there's like multiple females trying to get with one dude who obviously doesn't fucking deserve it.
Yeah.
But they're all sort of in love with who Peter Pan was, right?
Right.
Tinkerbell, Maggie Smith, Wendy, I mean,
Yep.
Moira.
How weird was
and then-
that? Jeez.
It's a little creepy.
No, I was totally down because there's a lot to talk about the deeper themes of Neverland and Peter Pan, but the deal is that Peter Pan, we sort of take that Moira likes him on faith, because this movie is long enough. Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
And
True.
then a few months ago, the actual Peter Pan was on the Disney Channel. We watched it, and
Yeah.
Peter Pan itself is pretty dark. I mean, the cartoon was. I'm sure the book has some darker implications.
Mhm.
Much
Terry
more.
was talking to me about the TV tropes page on Fridge Horror, where you look at something and then you're like, fine, whatever, and then you think about the larger implications of it, and it's actually kind of messed up.
Yeah.
And Neverland is definitely Fridge Horror when you think about it.
Yeah.
Um,
I never thought of that. I didn't know that. Didn't think of that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, but, and Tinkerbell's part of that Fridge Horror because Tinkerbell's kind of she's like a reverse Harley Quinn, where she does have an unhealthy infatuation with Peter Pan. She tries to fucking kill Wendy.
Yep.
I mean, for fuck's sake. And it's probable that Tinkerbell actually got this shit rolling.
Yeah. It is. Like
Because Tinkerbell's totally like, hey, Hook, you want to steal Peter Pan's kids and get him back here?
Throughout the whole movie, she has an eerie ease in manipulating Hook.
Hook knows a lot of shit about Peter and Peter's
Yep.
life.
Yep.
And then you notice that Smee has a sworn affidavit from Tinkerbell that this motherfucker's the real Peter Pan. Like, it's in the paperwork that he already has. And Tinkerbell and Hook are both people who are completely nostalgic and can't let go of the past and want Peter Pan to return to bring back the good old days.
Yep.
I think the reason, like, most of the questions about this movie's plot can be resolved if you understand that Tinkerbell wants Peter Pan back and she's working with Hook to do that.
And the thing that's kind of interesting
messed
about
up.
the whole scenario, I don't know like Hook, like the pirates. I don't know how they fit into Neverland. Like, if you take away the premise that it's a story and that like Neverland is like another dimension that you can traverse, one wonders. Okay, I get it. Like somehow like kids like get lost and somehow they're transported to Neverland where they can be kids forever. And one wonders why the pirates are there. And then after you wonder that, you start wondering, okay, so the pirates had to show up some kind of way. So that means the only person that's shackled to this place is Tinkerbell.
Nope.
She can't leave. She could be the mastermind of the entire Neverland.
She is. I mean, that's my take on her. She's the most mature person.
Yep.
Because, okay, one, I'm stealing this from Terry. I'm acknowledging my sources here. Neverland's a sausage fest. The females you have are mer women, right? Who are one hallucination of sailors on the high seas, right?
Yep.
The one context they pop in this movie is to sort of kind of be sexy and then save Peter Pan. And then you have females who exist inside the Indian tribes because they exist solely within this context as Indians, as the kind of savages that the British people who wrote these shows would portray them as. They fight the bad guys, and then what's her name? Littlefoot? Tenderfoot?
Tenderfoot.
Tiger Lily?
Lightfoot.
Tiger Lily, thank you. Tiger Lily, who is from a continent that doesn't have any tigers, exists as a romantic interest for Peter. and it does reek of like two sorts of archetypical males without a female influence, like boys who just want to play, right? And they play rough.
Oh yeah, do
Um,
they?
and they see fighting as a game, right? Because at the very end, they're like, "That was the best game ever," and motherfuckers died. And they're
Yeah.
like, "That's a great game." Where they
Yeah,
don't
like
take
Rufio,
it
like
seriously.
their leader totally died. Like not even 20 minutes before.
Yeah.
Do you just get the feeling like they're about to eat the dead pirates?
Yeah, they're like all sociopaths. They're just monsters.
Well, that's again, and the adults are all pirates, who are again the worst impulses of dudes.
Yeah, like when he first started, I was like, yes, kill them all, and like he was talking about like, oh, we're not killing lost boys today. I'm so bored. We're not killing Indians. I'm like, this dude, it's not just like killing be one thing, but he's talking about like killing kids, like just as like I'm bored with it.
They're his foes, and it's about the adventure for them. It's about the conflict.
Well, I mean, I get what it is, but I mean that's some dark shit. And then right on the cusp, like right on the eve of like a suicide scene where he's like,
Yeah.
"That's it, I'm done with this." And I'm like, "Shit, son!" Like,
All Hook
Don't
craves,
stop
all
me, Smee. Don't stop me, Smee. Smee, don't. Smee, stop it. Smee.
I do want to talk about that scene a little later, but
well, yeah, me too. Me too.
it is
There's a lot
they
going on.
crave death and adventure, like that's it. And for dudes, especially younger dudes, like that's the appeal. They like a battle of good versus evil. And they when they form ranks, right? It's hey, show them what the light God gave you, and then show them you were forged in the fires of hell.
Yeah,
Like there's no ambiguity in Neverland.
yeah, yeah.
Dudes, conflict, fun, apparently winches,
Winches, yes.
and piracy. And the rule of piracy is, of course, the strong dominate. Like Hook doesn't even hide his contempt for his own men because it's that sort of purely adversarial environment. And excuse me, I think the movie's on some level aware of this because what does Maggie say to Hook? She specifically says that he needs a
He needs a mother.
yeah.
You need a mommy.
Yeah.
And that's why Wendy is there initially, to tell them stories and darn their socks, because the original narrative is that they need a feminizing influence. They need it's a world out of balance.
Well, I definitely get the. I don't know if it's I would definitely like invoke kind of the matriarchal or like I mean like anyway yeah yes it is a world out of balance. I don't know if I'd put it in the terms of a feminizing influence. It's definitely more of like a nurture thing because when boys are raised, it's typically kind of like suck it up, kid, and you know, like if males are just kind of left to kind of do their own thing, like yes, all of your physical needs will be met, but you may not be the most emotionally stable person.
Well, there is no civilization. There's no build. There's simply pillaging and taking. And we talked about this. Terry and I talked about this. Like everything in Neverland seems to work on the kids next door 2x4 technology, where like there's no reason they should have skateboards or the industrial capacity to create skateboards or even clocks. Like who's making fucking Neverland clocks? Like they're just throwing shit together and then it works because Neverland. Anyway, and whether you distinctly call civilization feminizing or not, it's a solely male influence and it's a pretty fucked up place. And it's a little immature in that way. And Tinkerbell's again the one reasonable, intelligent person. So I don't know. It seems to be a theme that runs throughout it. And again, I couldn't say more about the larger Peter Pan mythology, but definitely this movie. I mean, it's an action movie, right? Where Peter Pan's like, yeah, actually, I don't have to fight you at all, Hook. I can just walk away. Like I'm the better person, and I'm just gonna leave.
I've grown up.
Now.
Like I've straight up grown up in more ways than one.
Mm-hmm.
And convention demands a fight, so Hook says, "Hey, look, I'm gonna come and get you. Like it's not over until I'm dead."
Yeah.
which
I kind of I like how they did the whole they fulfilled the mythos where he gets swallowed by the crocodile. Because the whole time and I mean like if you're familiar with this, and I didn't remember the end. I'm like Pan, you gotta kill him, dude. I mean, come on. Let's be real. And this is like Robin Williams, like very athletic Robin Williams. Like I know he didn't do his own stunts, but he had like that part where he had like his shirt off and all, and he wasn't flabby all the way through. Like he was the most athletic you probably have ever seen, Robin
yes.
Williams.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like you gotta kill him, dude. You gotta kill him, and then like he lets him go, and I'm like. And then you start seeing the Rube Goldberg machine that is the crocodile unleashing itself. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this part. And I'm like, that's cool. It's pretty clever because he disappears because the mythos is complete.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
According to the Wikipedia, Tinkerbell animated the crocodile with pixie dust
Interesting.
to have one last chance at eating Hook.
You know what? Good fucking enough. That bothered me because I was talking to Terry about this. And Terry's like, I think it seemed to move because the support structure was gone, so it seems alive, but it's really dead. And then I'm like, well, how does he swallow Hook and then burp?
Yeah, but say burps.
You know what? Fucking pixie dust, man. That is good enough.
Yeah, MacGuffin
That's all
dust.
I need. Yeah, MacGuffin. I do like the sword that he has tucked inside of his sleeve. It was good times.
Yeah.
Because this tells us in the early '90s that there is not actually a pirate code. We did not have to wait for Johnny Depp to know that.
Yeah.
Because he's all like, "Oh, good form, good form," and like he gives exactly zero shits about good form.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's pretty funny.
It's really he's a villain through and through, and he's a great villain. I think Dustin Hoffman did great. I mean, he's at like 150% intensity throughout most of this movie.
Oh yeah, and like what was it? There was a good scene where he talks about piercing his ear, and he's like, "I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna hurt." He's like, "But it's like the first time you've run a man through." Like, dude, like you're just fucking dark, man. Like, seriously, like this is a kid here. You're talking about kill a motherfucker.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the movie. Like it is really, really swingy. Like, because Peter Pan stabs motherfuckers, and these kids, I think, even stab a couple motherfuckers.
They do.
But then, like, they
very
pop
down.
out, and like they have a gun that shoots chicken eggs, and then they have giant slingshots that shoot. I can only suppose raw tomatoes or spoiled tomatoes at pirates.
Yep.
And you're like, and you're gonna stab people now. It was really that final fight scene was just really irritating.
Well, the big thing, and I think this is maybe kind of like you're looking. I think you were looking for like too much realism, and a lot of it, like the premise on Neverland is imagination, and that the reason why the Lost Boys always have the upper hand is because they're young and they haven't forgot how to like dream and imagine. Once you're too old, once you're kind of like like a pirate, you've just kind of become like laminated to the shackles of who you are as what you do. You can no longer kind of imagine things, so you just rely on like your whatever other assets you have. But these guys, the reason why it works is that they've imagined it and they believe it strongly enough that it happens. It's very mystical, I guess, in that regard. At least that's what I think Neverland runs on, is imagination and belief.
I don't doubt that at all. And I would even say the romanticism of being a pirate on the high seas is the other major fantasy that Neverland sustains.
I always just assumed the pirates are there because I didn't think it was anything more than Lost Boys needed a bad guy, and they were just an archetype just laying around.
That's true.
I really don't understand where the pirates fit into Neverland. I've always kind of wondered about that because I can get the Lost Boys. Even Indians have kind of like a mystical vibe to them, as far as our perspective of them in the West. Well, everywhere really.
The perspective of the guy who wrote Peter Pan is
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
rife,
But
incredibly problematic, but decent for a story.
yeah, and
And keep in mind he's British, so I don't think Brits were too taken with cowboys. So, but Indians, Indians.
Yeah, Germans love cowboys. I can only assume the British were more interested in the Indians. Because
Which
they were in terms of Indians, they're like, which Indians shall we write about today?
yeah.
So many of them. Two of them. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just mentioning that so like everything kind of like mermaid, like everything kind of has like a fantastical bent, but pirates are just. I mean, yes, they're an archetype, but they're really just kind of like a regular Joe. Like I sail a boat and I shoot people and I stab folk. Like
yeah,
I
but
never.
these are their children's caricature of pirates. Same way that the Indians are, just a caricature of Indians based on a child's idea.
Yeah, but
Uh,
like, why are they there? Like, it's not
Same
like
as the Indians are there.
well, yeah, but they have a mystical kind of like. So if you look at Neverland as some sort of mystical dimension, then the Indians kind of could be there because they have some generic magic that brings them there, ties them to that place. Mermaids, same gig. Fairies, same gig. Pirates, what? Like, what ties them there?
Did you want to talk about the room, Terry? Because we talked a little bit about the room. I don't know if you
All
wanted
right,
to
no,
field
go
that
ahead.
one.
If you want to
Okay.
field that one, go ahead.
Okay. Well, within the structure of the movie, um, Neverland, the Adventures of Peter Pan are based off of Wendy's adventures as a kid, which allegedly they imagined up, right? And so the room, right, with the little mural along the top of the lagoons and the mermaids and things, the
Yep.
little door latch which looks like a hook,
Yep.
that is the inspiration for Neverland.
Hmm.
Of course, Neverland is a real place, which exactly matches that room, a child's imagining of that room.
Okay.
So my interpretation is that Neverland is a child's version. You remember the wide-angle shots when there's a reef? There's an actual reef in Neverland. That is a compass point.
Oh yeah. I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was a reef. I thought it was just straight up a compass point. Like, we're not even gonna pretend.
Well, it looked like it was part of the scenery. So it was incorporated into the scenery because Neverland is a map that a child would see and not necessarily realize that the compass point isn't an actual physical
Yeah.
landmark. So what Terry suggested is that the pirate boat is a boat that was drawn onto the map and therefore is integrated into the reality of Neverland.
See, I could
Um,
definitely buy that.
and of
See, in the
course,
original book, though, he was like second mate to Blackbeard, and he went to Eton
Eden?
before leaving England. So he's actually a gentleman, and it's like somehow the boat managed to, I don't know, in a storm or something, cross over and find its way into Neverland. And then when Peter cut his hand off and he had to replace it with a hook, it started this whole rivalry thing that he refuses to let go, a la Moby Dick or something. And his real name isn't Hook, that's just the name he got after his hand was replaced with a
well,
hook.
what else are you going to call yourself?
Absolutely.
Pointy.
That was always my impression as well. Now, putting pirates into into a archetype generated by young Western men, which includes Indians, mermaids, and pirates, I think is fine. I think it's legit. I'm not going to say that that's not cool. My impression has been though that the pirates are equally real adults, and they romanticize pirates the same way that the Lost Boys romanticize living in a world without parents and without adult supervision. So it's two different types of specific male independence fantasies that fuel Neverland.
Interesting.
That's my take on it anyway.
And there's a theme that the Lost Boys fall out of their prams, and that's how they end up in Neverland. And then it says in the book that Peter weeds them out as they start to grow up. So you get the idea that that's what happened to Toodles in the film. He started to grow up, or he was interested in the real world, and he ended up having to go back there.
Yeah.
And at the start of Peter Pan, because I've actually read the book, and for some reason it's more in my brain than Hook is. You've
Yeah.
got the Lost Boys trailing after some Indians in one of their cat and mouse games, where sometimes they win, sometimes we win.
Can I just
And
mute
then
Terry for a
Captain
second? Is
Hook
that
is
okay?
following the Lost Boys,
Go right ahead.
and the crocodile is following the captain. And they're on this little circular path all around the island.
Huh.
And it's kind
Yeah.
of like it's a circular existence of sometimes it's one of them chasing the other, sometimes it's the other chasing them. But this existence just keeps going and going. Some of the players change, but it's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah, that sounds legit. And when Peter leaves, like the entire cycle gets thrown into disarray.
Yeah, there's
Which is why the pirates suddenly, all of a sudden, get this instead of just being locked on the ship, now they've actually got a part of Neverland. They've totally set up as like pirate paradise.
that's very
Everybody's happy with except for Hook, because he hasn't killed his main
quota.
nemesis.
Yeah.
That's
he
a very
has a dramatic comparison.
it's very zen, I think. Because we were talking earlier about how they don't have like they don't have civilization, they don't have like the means to make skateboards, but the idea is and one argues if they even have food, like they almost eat their imagination, I think.
That's a damn good point, sir.
And the what is interesting, like with kind of what you just said, Katie, is that kind of Zen kind of talks about like if you keep trying to make I like one thing, then two of those things must be better, and just climbing up that linear progression, you quickly tire at some point in time. You tire yourself out, and you're like, ugh, I'm just gonna stop right here. I don't care anymore. But really, life is about kind of the ebb and flow and just existing in those kind of moments. And so, like the Lost Boys kind of acceptance of the game as, no, it's okay, it's good. We lost this time, but we're gonna win next time. We're gonna get them. They played a good game. Like it is kind of the acceptance of the larger game of life, which is, yeah, it's okay when bad things happen, because next time good things are gonna happen, and we're totally gonna rock this. And that might actually be. I mean, granted, I'm definitely taking kind of my own bias here, but one wonders if you can go so immature that you spill over into maturity.
I don't think so. I mean, I think you have to, like, one part of being an adult is doing things and accepting that you might be harming others. Like, you have to accept that part of the price of you existing in the world is the possible harm to others. And you can call that original sin or whatever, but like I think you have to have that in order to achieve wisdom. So I don't think you can sit in Neverland and then claim enlightenment, because it's not like there's no real contest there. I think it is something specifically engendered by Tinkerbell just to find herself premium dick. That is my thesis for Neverland.
That's your
It is Tinkerbell's dick factory. It's like
Not to admit it's a total sausage fest there.
no.
and it's like what is
If
it?
wasn't a sausage fest, they wouldn't need a mother. They would already have mothers or mother figures.
Right. So but they don't want those. They don't need those. It's completely self-indulgent, and that's what they do want it, because they all have some vague memory. And memory is like a weird thing for Neverland, but
Yeah, that is weird.
yeah. Tinkerbell is looking for someone who's playful, someone who is the most fantastical, the most pixie-like, the most young at heart for her to be with, and she's wanted to be with Peter Pan because he's the best at the Neverland game, basically. And I don't remember. Are there any other fairies in the canon, or is it
I mean,
basically just Neverland?
They imply that there are, but you never see any.
Yeah,
Canon. I thought you were talking about the movie. My bad.
I don't recall any being mentioned.
Right, and so the idea is that Smee's done. So then she goes to wait for Peter at this twilight place she describes. What is it?
Yeah,
Like
that kind of seems like some stalker stuff, like where your wife can't be. That's where I'll be.
perhaps that's where she's from. Perhaps that's where she originally came from before she created Neverland with the dreams of
Well, no, like
abandoning young boys.
they say that when the first baby laughed for the first time, it shattered into a million pieces, and those were the first fairies. Like so, that's supposedly the genesis of fairies.
Right, but there are no other fairies in Neverland.
Well, right. We don't know. We don't know if there are other fairies in Neverland, but the genesis of fairies, and presumably,
Oh yeah,
Tinkerbell is one of those original fairies. That would be her origins, not necessarily like, oh, I showed up in Neverland and created it from thin air. But no, maybe I don't know. It could still happen. Yeah, it could still be.
I assume that she would have done that later. Yeah.
Yeah, she could have done that later.
So it's
Yeah.
that's my take.
I assume there's an alternate Neverland that's filled with girls, unicorns, and ponies.
Yeah, I assume that there are perhaps several Neverlands made by fairies for the purposes of either recruiting humans or extract whatever they need from them. So.
Oh yeah, like fairies are. Like, I mean, like, and that's. I mean, I think that like to your wisdom point, or at least to like the wisdom point you were kind of mentioning. You know, I don't necessarily believe that wisdom is derived from kind of like a cynical understanding of that you have to deprive someone else to exist. And furthermore, I would even say that that isn't true because humans' one evolutionary advantage has been a cooperation. Yes, we fuck other animals up, but we ourselves have to cooperate in order to exist as a whole. But like I do think that like I do think that the that you can't like you can't really like there isn't really any level of maturity, like anything is kind of like happenstance, like it just because they'll do things that just invalidate it, like just like, hey, you're like, because like that little kid that identifies him as Peter like early on,
Patches.
yeah, he's like a wise old man, and like one's like at the same time I'm like, damn,
A wise
kid, like,
old magic black man.
yeah, I know. Like, how are you pulling this off, kid? Like, what are you, 6?
The acting in this movie.
I assume he has The Shining.
No, that was good acting. You thought it was bad acting?
No, I said the acting in this movie. I'm implying it was good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because like I was like, damn, kid, that's like wacky, and like and you know, like he's talking about like, oh, there you are, Peter, like looking in his eyes and like, this dude's like performing some hoodoo on you. Get back. But then they just go right back to like, hey, let's have fun, let's do things, woo, let's food fight.
Yeah.
And it's like,
they go right back to, wait, maybe he's not Peter. I'm like, okay, let's just cross the line a couple more times. But,
well, I guess that's the game.
Yeah, for kids.
It could be. Yeah, and that's.
Not to mention, I think we've gone completely off track from the movie by this point. We're discussing philosophies of Peter Pan.
Well, we're actually talking about the kids who are acting in it.
Well, now, but I was wondering if we could take it back. Okay, so the movie opens up. We have cynical business lawyer Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And we are running into a lot of movies, well, 2 so far, where Robin Williams starts off as a serious business person.
They tamp him down. Fuck, even think in The Birdcage, he's kind of the straight man to Nathan Lane.
Which is amazing.
I know, right? Derek, he better be completely off the chain for Fisher King.
I don't remember Fisher King.
Right. So, and you know, they play up all the, and he's got no time for his kids. He's a business guy.
Yeah, cats in the cradle stuff.
Silver spoon, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although his son's kind of a dick, if you ask me.
I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I mean, not that he
I
wasn't.
bought Jack's arc. I bought all of Jack's arc.
Yeah, I did too.
I'm not saying I don't agree that his dad's a dick, but he was being a bit of a dick in my opinion, and his dad was right into correcting him in a few cases. Now, maybe he was a little overboard and probably should have been a little more contrite and not use the same phrase, "Hey, my word is my bond."
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
especially
like,
when you've just broken that
yeah, like
the day
Yeah.
before.
yeah, count down to when you break your word.
Yeah,
That's
that's
mine.
good.
It's copyrighted.
I was thinking it when he said it. Yep, I'm about to break his word. All right. So anyway, they go to merry old England.
Yeah.
England and, for Christmas, because everyone likes to freeze their nuts off.
Well, no, it's not
Christmas.
just for Christmas. It's because of Maggie's.
Yeah,
Like,
I know, but it's you get the feeling it's Christmas time. That or it's I don't know. Is that what May looks like in England?
I think so. Yes.
Take that, England. Haha.
we have the better May, objectively
So,
so.
oh, it was an interesting little segment. I mean, for one thing, Wendy, amazing actress. She did a great job, amazing job.
She's Maggie Smith, and then
Yeah, that's
Gwyneth
Dane.
Paltrow
That's
as
Dane
well.
Maggie Smith.
Oh, thank you, Dame Maggie Smith. I apologize, Maggie Smith.
you should.
I
Yeah.
really apologize. That's not sarcastic.
Okay, I don't want
As I
anyone
as I would be
telling
for
me. Of
any
course,
other
she
member
did a
of the
good
Harry
job.
Potter
She's
cast.
mad. And Dane Magic Smith. But you know what? I don't care because I'm going to say it again. She does a great job. She's an incredible actress.
That's true.
All right. All right. Good. Glad we got that. I think they did a great job with the whole set. By the way,
Hey,
the
I'm
police
glad you
inspector
mentioned
was
that.
Phil Collins.
Say again.
The police inspector, the one after their kids disappear, Phil Collins.
Oh wow, yeah.
I like that. I do like that they actually do call the police.
So,
So-
are you
Yeah.
saying you
Special.
do like Phil Collins?
I wouldn't go that far.
Mm.
So I'm glad you brought that up because this is the first time that I can remember, and I would even throw Star Wars into this gambit.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
What's
that
about to happen?
that movie that a movie has spent so much on convincing you of it. Like, it's spent a lot of attention to detail on setting, to where setting is like a character.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very, like, I could have watched this movie just for like the sets alone. Like, it was very intricate. They were themed. They were detailed. They were meaningful. They had all these kind of little bits in them. And like, while like, let's say Star Wars has a variety, it definitely sells you the narrative that you're flying to different planets in the galaxy, which is kind of admittedly a tall order in the 70s. This is like this is I think the first time I remember there being so much attention to detail in a setting in a movie.
Yeah.
At least until Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
It felt.
And it's
It did.
Spielberg, so
Yeah.
Um,
That's funny because we were reading in the Wikipedia that he actually didn't like the limitation he had on the sets once they got to Neverland.
Yeah, we can only assume Spielberg is actually a huge motherfucker because this is very,
Well, you have to admit he did. There's a few points there because he said he just felt so constrained by the technology, whereas today all the acting would have taken place and it would have been digitally added.
right, which I think would have been to the detriment of it. One of the things I
agree.
really liked about this set is that the tracks on it
Were real
they're the same tracks you used to put the cameras on, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably.
So that usually you you have your set and then you put like the camera on the tracks around it. And that's a limitation, but here you've got a full-size actual fucking set. You can put the cameras inside of the set and everything works just fine. And I appreciate that, like the scope of his imagination shrank to what sort of real set can we make.
yeah.
'Cause I think that's pretty pragmatic. That's very mature. And at the same time, he's like, my imagination would have been unconstrained if I had had computer and green screen technology like we have now. And I can't help but wonder how much shittier that movie would have been.
Of course they had green screen technology. How do you think they made Robin Williams fly?
God, I know. But-
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know if that's anything you've given some thought to, Derek.
Yeah,
Something like that.
I'm with Spielberg in this. All the sets compared to the point where they go to Neverland, Neverland still looks good, but you could definitely tell. All right, we're pulling this out of our imagination, where all the other sets were made grounded in reality. They looked freaking amazing. You get to Neverland, it still looks good and whimsical, but you can tell there's no basis on this. Yes, you just throwing a pirate town together and everything else. We've got some seaweed here.
It does feel like a play sometimes, which I don't think is bad,
No.
but
In-
a play exists in a pretty small space. It feels confined.
I like to think of it as that Neverland is kind of a dream world, so it works on storytelling logic.
It's,
Yeah.
it's totally whimsical for reals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you use the usual criticism we have in terms of logic and structure and A leads to B leads to C? Can you use that sort of stuff for a world that's pretty much made by the imaginations of kids? Is that even fair?
Absolutely. No further questions. All right,
That's
but-
in terms of the fight scene where Robin Williams was like, "Now we're going to do a wacky thing," and like the kid comes up with a chicken
All right.
gun. It's like,
Let's,
"Now we're going to do another wacky thing." It comes with a Marlin gun.
let's work our way to it. We're midway through the movie.
All right.
Okay, so Wendy tells Peter about the story, or if him being Peter Pan. There's that great bit you pointed out where she grabs the book and and Peter does the stance with his hands on his hips.
Yes,
Yeah.
And then shows him the picture, and he
That was a good bit.
works.
Movies
But
hang
yeah,
on.
and that's definitely where we get the creepy vibe about how Wendy wanted to bang him, and now she's his grandmother.
I don't think it's creepy, by the way. But yeah.
I think it's creepy. now that she okay, look at it from his point of view. He just found out his grandmother has the hots for him.
When she's not his grandmother. She took him in. She
Grandmother-in-law?
story. It's
Yeah, because I mean, Peter's older than she is.
yeah. I mean, she is an older woman, but to act like just because someone's old, they no longer have sexual or romantic feelings. To act
That's
like
not the creepy part. It's nothing to do with that she's old.
Yeah.
It's that she's effectively a relative. It would be like sleeping with your stepbrother or sister, or in Katie's case, a brother and sister.
she's adopted. He's adopted. They're not related at all. And in fact, the emotional, which would make that so creepy, doesn't even seem to be there because he's such an unemotional ass.
Yeah, he kind of is. Also, completely oblivious to everyone else's emotions for him.
Well, I really think he's just kind of like
yeah, that's
he's
true.
just kind of like the first he's just kind of the first like Spurg. Like he's like the first like person with Asperger's that we see filmed. Like, he's like he just whatever he's doing, that's what he's like 100% focused on, but he doesn't have the ability to kind of like
Understand
once that changes. Like, and so once he got here to the real world, he's like, oh, gotta succeed. All right, good deal. I'm gonna ignore everything else and just be a success.
That would explain that whole hands on the hips thing,
Yeah.
and total Asperger's syndrome, or legs on the thighs. Remember that, Boston Legal?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Hands.
But
Anyway.
yeah, Allsburgers, Allsby. Yeah, it's I didn't think of it that way, but yeah, he definitely seems to adapt pretty quickly to things,
And
and
he
then
has
not
single-minded focus on them.
yeah.
But they kind of describe Tinkerbell that same way because apparently fairies are too small to feel more than one emotion at a time. So you're kind of wondering how much of that rubbed off on Peter as he was, quote, growing up. He can only focus on one thing at a time because that's the way.
I would swap cause and effect there. That maybe Tinkerbell likes him so much because he has that same attitude he does.
That makes sense.
Again, it mostly because it supports my Tinkerbell is looking for Dick theory. I won't pretend to be objective about that.
All right, so then we get to the scene where kids are gone,
Yeah.
which, by the way, I still think was a deliciously creepy, weird moment
Yeah, you got to
with
build
the
it up.
green lights and everything, and then coming home and find the cut on the wall from the can, even
I
though it was
think,
the wrong side.
yeah, it might have been on the way out,
Yeah,
That
you
could
can
make
cross
you
the
sense.
know.
arms.
But really, we all know it was there for the trailer. Like
Yeah.
that's very
Oh
much
yeah,
that shit.
yeah, yeah. That was
In
that
the
was
trailer.
totally in the trailer.
Yeah. So,
No, I
Um,
remember the trailer. Like I'm confirming this.
okay,
yeah,
all right, that's good. I did remember the trailer. I just assumed.
but you
So good.
posted the
Good to have
trailers,
confirmation.
so yeah.
Well, yeah, and I watched them all whenever I posted them, and that was
Yes.
more than 2 days ago. So there we are.
Yeah, fair enough. So anyway,
I've drank since then.
so Tinkerbell shows up. That's such a Robin Williams scene.
It's a pretty good scene, yeah. Where you kind of get a little bit of wrong. It's not as much as you'd like. You're like, hey, yeah, Julia Roberts is in this movie. I forgot about that.
Yeah, me
You're like,
too.
she's gonna green screen all of this. That
And
seems
she
bad.
was and she was pretty like young. It seemed like she seemed like in maybe her mid-20s. I want to say.
The pixie haircut helps.
I don't
It
know.
I mean,
Like, how old was
I
she at the
submit
time?
that there might be a universe in which Julia Roberts was 20 at some point, but I just don't know.
Julia Roberts was born in '67. She's only 46 right now.
Jesus.
Yeah, this
That's-
was over 20
91.
years ago.
Yeah, wow, okay.
She was pretty young.
Pretty young, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, younger than I thought.
So anyway, that scene was meh. It was okay.
That's fun. And then she
Knocking
picks
him
him up
out
because
and then using the parachute that his daughter made to carry him away.
that's good.
Oh, and did you realize that George Lucas and Carrie Fisher were the couple that got sprinkled by fairy dust and were floating up into the air while kissing while she's taking Peter off to Neverland?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Terry told me about that, but yeah, you notice the couple, and it turns out that's George Lucas and Carrie Fisher, which is just
I didn't-
awful. You figure Carrie Fisher had better people to kiss.
Yeah. I don't. I didn't even see like. Well, admittedly, I wasn't watching with like undivided attention. I was doing other stuff because I'd seen this before, so I must have missed it.
Yeah. But yeah, it was those two. They were on the bridge as Tinkerbell was hauling them away. So, by the way, do not. Terry pointed this out. Do not fuck with Tinkerbell. She could just snap your fucking neck.
Yeah.
Like,
What do
she
you
could
mind
have
that?
killed Hook at any fucking time,
Yeah,
obviously.
at will.
So,
He had superior
Yeah, exactly.
mobility and a strength enough to like basically fly through his eyeball into his brains. So
Or just literally just grab his head and twist really hard. She
Yeah.
picked up freaking Robin Williams.
yeah, Tink
and
is.
flew him for presumably hours. It's
Yeah.
second star to light straight on till morning. I'm thinking that's more than a few hours.
several hundred light years. I mean,
Well, no, the distance is shorter in the imagination.
She did, and as far as we know, she didn't even break a sweat.
no.
Or it's
So again, I submit that Tinkerbell is the god of Neverland.
Oh,
That's all I'm
and she
saying.
also blocked the sword with her little dagger thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
she's the god of Neverland that created a world solely for dicks. But I think the first thing you said was, I hate it when like a woman when there's like so many women going after one asshole. I'm like, I kind of think if we follow this theory, Tinkerbell's the asshole here.
Yeah, she kind of is. I mean, she's like, I know he's married to Moira and stuff, but let's make out anyway, Peter.
Yeah, come on, you know.
First of all, fairies are like Mormons. They don't believe. You can have as many wives as you want.
Yeah.
I
Um,
just that doesn't even make sense, but I'm going
No,
with
it
it.
doesn't. I was going to
Anyway.
go. So, yeah.
All right,
So-
so I love the opening scene where he's getting out, and I mean, first of all, Tink, why'd you drop him off in the pirates? Did you?
She wanted him to fight Hook and kick Hook's ass and call it a day and get his
Yeah,
kids
yeah.
back.
Yeah, get
Okay,
Everything
that-
back to normal.
That makes sense, but just seeing him should have told her otherwise. But what the hell? She's a fairy.
I say, everyone in this movie has impaired childish judgment.
Yes.
Basically, except for Robin Williams' character.
Yeah, which is odd
Tell
when
later.
you really think
Yeah.
about it.
I know.
I'm the mature one.
Like, I'm going to get a lawyer. I'm like, yeah, that's reasonable. That's what you say to another adult when they're trying to stab you. I mean, this isn't legal at all, not even a little bit.
Yeah, so anyway, the scene with the pirates.
Grounds of this whole
Um,
stabbing scenario.
I think it was great. I especially like the intro to Hook, and Smee is just amazing.
Yeah.
Shmi has been amazing.
They're both great. I mean, they're both just.
Oh yeah, yeah.
wow.
I didn't know who was Hook. I didn't know it was Dustin Hoffman,
Yeah,
and I immediately recognized Bob Hoskins, and I just fell in love with him again.
he's a classic. Yeah, he's great at it.
Really good.
I
So anyway, hey, the whole scene's great. The carrying on the hook. I could have done without the whole everybody crowding around, following and chanting "Hook, hook, where's the hook, hook."
I did almost expect them to break into song.
Yeah, it's like,
So
guys, is there more to the song? Nah, you're probably too stupid to remember the other lines.
yeah, it does sort of build up into the hero worship they have for Hook, and again, hero worship is kind of a theme here.
Well, isn't there like kind of a thing in Britain where you have like the person of authority and his number two like life mate, and they're like just heterosexually attached to one another, out of the need to be the greater good or something like that. Like,
If Star Trek was made in Britain, yeah.
well, no, like I think that's like a legit thing. Like it's like some sort of first mate something. I mean, you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
I just can't put my finger on it. Anyway,
Every great man needs a good man's servant.
Yeah, and so it seems to me that he's so larger than life that he doesn't have like one cabin boy. They're all his cabin boys.
I mean, I think it's just a cult of personality. You accept that Hook is at the top of his game. He's climbed every mountain. He's overcome every obstacle. All that remains left to him is Peter Pan and death.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think,
And everyone there is effectively immortal.
yeah, but they all crave adventure. They all crave this great conflict.
Because they're bored.
And Hook alone wants something more.
Well, he wants Peter Pan. I assume after that he'll finally manage to kill himself.
Well, he wants
I
adventure.
assume that as well.
Yeah. They both mention like death is the last great adventure.
Yeah.
In many ways, the Lost Boys and the Pirates are very similar because they're both extremely immature.
Yes.
Impulsive,
Yes, they are.
and just do what they want.
Self-serving and also self-defeating. Yeah.
So I think we've traversed enough of the movie, both with Terry's kind of like recapping and our initial things. That let's talk about the suicide scene because
Okay.
I definitely don't want to miss it.
I'm fine with that. Go ahead.
All right. So go on.
So to I guess a little bit of setup, right? So he's talking to me. He's like, "What the fuck did I do? I had him, and I let this fucking conniving pixie talk me out of like to letting him go. He's like, that's it. He's never coming back. That's never gonna be Peter Pan. Like I'm over it. I'm done. I'm finally done, Smee." He's like, "What are you talking about, Captain? You should do
I
this.
have a plan.
You want to play like
I have an
like
epiphany.
He's
Epiphany,
walking around with his own kind of like purpose, and then he puts the gun to his head, and he says, "Don't try to stop me, Smee. Don't try to stop me." And then like he's like, "Don't. I mean it. I'm gonna do it this time. Stop me, Smee. You want to stop me?" One thing that's kind of interesting about this scene, other than like it's so morbid, like it's just is that
Dark, yeah.
you get this impression that he is not in control. He does not possess willpower. Like when an emotion takes him, he has to fulfill it to its end, and he is not allowed to like stop. Because who would need intervention? Like if they genuinely wanted to stop from killing themselves, so far as they would plead with another person, who would need intervention to do that?
Have you ever seen Sergeant Bilko with Steve Martin?
I get it. I get it. Slapstick. I mean,
Hold me back, guys. Hold me back.
Yeah.
Because he needs to look. It's for the drama.
But this was kind of like one of the earlier points we were talking about, like where you mentioned, you didn't think it was kind of an all ages movie, and I just don't think it's an all ages movie in the sense that the nods to the adults are comical. It's the nods to adults like, hey, there's some adult themes that you won't get. Because when I saw that, I totally saw the funny part. I totally saw the whole like I'm gonna do it, stop it. Like I totally stop me, Smee. I can't handle it. Like I saw the hold me back, guys, hold me back. Like that's what I saw when I was 11. I saw this again, and I'm like, holy shit, Hook tries to kill himself. I don't remember this.
this scene does remind me of another thing. And do you get the feeling that like nothing ever decays or tarnishes in Neverland?
I don't know. It's all pretty decayed and tarnished, but I guess it doesn't get any worse now.
No, no. Think about it. Look at Hook's uniform, perfect pristine condition. His dozens of shoes, perfect. All the
All his
guns
pirates
they
are
show are perfectly polished, shiny.
They have to
And
polish his hook.
yeah,
and
they do polish and sharpen his hook, but I assume that's because it actually gets some wear. I'm betting if you just left it out, it would probably never go dull, never rust.
Yeah, it's kind of fantasy world, yeah.
Yeah, even the Lost Boys, they only look rough because they play a lot.
Yeah.
They, but they're probably wearing the same clothes they came to Neverland in.
Yeah, give or take, yeah. I mean, Rufio dresses up.
Rufio is a classy motherfucker. Like he's probably like the
And-
classiest one in the bunch.
Really, what
Yeah.
about the one that was literally wearing a suit?
Not classy as Rufio.
I think he was doing it ironically, and
But he looks so dapper.
His
yeah, well,
hair is probably dressed up whenever he ran away.
Yeah.
Like somebody dressed him up for a wedding or a funeral, and he's like, "That's it, I'm done with this crap."
Like he
I'm going
ran
to
away.
Neverland."
yeah, like he ran away from his own bar mitzvah or something.
Zoot
Yeah.
suit out.
Bar mitzvah rings true.
The bar
So-
mitzvah sounds about right. Yeah, yeah, it's appropriate too. So anyway, the suicide scene definitely throws me off, but at the same time, it's comical because clearly he's just being dramatic, and and then he starts going, don't stop me, Smee, don't stop me, whatever you do not stop, Smee, stop me, Smee,
Yeah.
Smee, stop me, Smee.
And I think it's all for drama. Like he needs that sense of importance. He needs the sense of adventure and excitement, and important things happening. And he's Japan thing's probably just going to be boring. After all, it's super disappointing. I've been thinking about killing myself for a while. Obviously, he does this a lot. So the dude's on the edge. I don't doubt that there's like a real desire to die in there, which is a good thing to have in an action movie for kids, because it's an action movie, so the villain's going to die.
I don't know. I don't really know if this is an action movie. Like you said that before, and I thought you were just kind of a little overreach to make the point. But you said it again, and now I just don't. I don't buy that it's an action movie.
It's the anti-Taken.
The anti.
That makes
Instead of
sense.
being 100% action 100% of the time, octane to 110%, turbines to speed, reactor critical, it's just it's the opposite of that. And again, you can talk about civilizing influence and things like that, but ultimately
It's
it's
a
an
comma
action
action movie, as in comedy, action, drama.
Yeah. I mean, that's
It's
kind of
not-
how I saw it. I saw it as kind of like a comedy drama.
I will withdraw the action description of this movie because it's undoubtedly a comedy. It's undoubtedly has dramatic elements, and it's no True Lies, so it's not the trifecta.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we
True
were
Lies
missing a
is-
few too many explosions for it to be an action movie.
True Lies is like one of those rare movies that I don't think they can make again.
Genre withdrawn. Anyway,
All right, so
suicide scene.
anyway,
Um,
Peter gets brought to the Lost Boys.
No, wait,
Yeah,
I thought
we're
you
doing
guys
suicide
had
scene.
some stuff
Suicide
about like the suicide thing.
I have so much to say about that fucking scene.
Yeah, hit me.
Thank you. I do resent that they played the suicide as kind of a joke, because it's obvious that he really feels it. But then he's like, "Oh, I don't really want to die after all. I'm just doing it for the attention." It's like, well, fuck you, everyone involved with this.
Hook's
Yeah.
email.
Exactly. So,
After all, what would the world be without Hook? I'm so important, you guys.
it does tell you a lot about Hook. So it does inform the character, and you understand that he does chew the scenery at 150% not because Steven Spielberg's behind a camera telling Dustin Hoffman to hit that note. Not that I think he has to, but because Hook is at 150% because he needs to be. He needs to be completely important. He needs the amazing red carpet in his fucking pirate ship.
Yeah. Did you see how like when he first showed up and like Pan was like about to walk up the stairs, he went out of his way to like change the red carpet. Like, no, you don't get the red carpet. Only I do.
That red carpet was
yeah.
practically a character in and of itself.
It's just it tells you so much about Hook.
Yep.
I think the
And
suicide thing is also supposed to be his humanizing moment because, sorry, I have one of the many 9 hours of safety videos I have to watch for work is going to be about suicide.
Tons of
How
suicide
people
teams.
who write suicide notes and are doing cries for help because they really don't want to kill themselves. They just don't know where else to go. So it's like he's having one of those moments because we've all thought about it at one point in time.
So see that I can definitely see where Hook needs help, and when he has a little repartee with Pan at the end, it's like, hey, death is the only adventure left to you. It feels like a lot of empty bravado because
Yep.
Hook needs to die, and if he can't have Pan, he kind of wants to die. Like the threat to hunt down Peter Pan's children is kind of a sad, desperate grasp
Yep.
at having his big fight.
Yep.
Not to mention, it's kind of a build-up for the last line that Peter does, where living is the greatest adventure of all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does that all.
Coalesces.
Yeah,
Thus
and it's-
ending suicides forever.
and it's a pretty sound movie in that respect. So the only other thing I want to say about that is that according to Bob Hodgkins and Dustin Hoffman, they played Smee and Hook as being gay, and boy, that's really disappointing because I didn't read that at all.
Yeah, I didn't catch that either, so it's like, okay, that went straight over my head. I don't know who you've been meeting as gay people, but okay.
They're in a pretty shitty relationship if they are. Like there's no synergy, there's no understanding.
But what if they're just gay but not for each other?
No, if it was
Maybe
a
Shmee is for Hook,
That's
but
completely
Hook
possible.
doesn't have that thing for Shmee because he's too busy having this thing for Peter Pan. This got really sick fast.
no,
No,
I think
That's what she said.
Yeah, if anything, I think that Hook might be gay for Smee, but Smee is just not equipped to in any way reciprocate that because he's a douchebag. He's a
Or
stupid.
more of an enabler.
Eh.
I can't decide whether or not Shmee is like submissive or not. You know, because like he has the wherewithal to take the jewels when he sees the opportunity, but he seems genuinely delighted to kind of be at Hook's beck and call.
He's number two.
Let's see three things Smee does. Hook is having a complete existential crisis, and Smee is eating. Two, Hook is like, don't stop me from killing myself, Smee. And Smee's like, okay, I'm gonna play with some boats. Hook is like, do something useful, Smee. Anything at all that's useful. And Smee's like, okay, I'll clean you out and try to get the fuck out of here. So, no, Smee's a douchebag as far as Hook goes. In that he's disloyal to the villain of the film, he's an okay guy.
Well,
again,
if you normalize him for being a pirate, does he become loyal again?
He's a smart one at
loyal.
least.
Pirates aren't loyal. He's as loyal as Hook fucking deserves.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you normalize him as a pirate. Like you basically take the all accountings for being a pirate out of the thing. Is he a loyal pirate? Considering how capable of loyalty pirates are, which is zero, I guess.
He's as much of that oxymoron as a person could be, I guess. It just seems like Hook would want more out of the relationship.
Yeah, definitely. It's a characterization of a relationship for sure.
Yeah, Saddam Hussein and Satan made a much better couple.
They did. Saddam Hussein and Satan made a much better couple.
I want to believe that.
So anyway,
I'm with Chris now.
so that Robin Williams. So I guess he learns to be Peter Pan. He automatically changes his clothes when that happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, was there a wardrobe in the clouds? Like, where did this happen?
I suggested a reverse bat pole. Like he goes up the tree, and instead of Bruce Wayne sliding down the fireman's pole and getting to the bottom in his Batman costume, it's the opposite. He goes up the tree.
And comes out in his Peter costume.
So like there are two things that I want to talk about with regards to like we've kind of glossed over this scene, but I had this scene firmly fixed in my mind because it was great. You know, so Tinkerbell leads him into their old home, and he finally has a realization that he's Pan. He finds his happy thought. You know, he almost loses it, and then he stops. and he breaks the
Yeah.
fourth wall, and you see this amazing transformation. Like I've only ever seen like I'm trying to remember. I've seen it once with John Belushi, the guy who was in Animal
Okay.
House, like in like
Mhm.
some deleted scene where he was only acting with facial expressions, and he had his face looked like this looked like a T1000 of just emotion. I thought was pretty wild.
All right.
And in this, he stops and he goes from fear to delight, and you can see it on his face without saying a word. Like he goes from fear to delight with like a tinge of confidence, and he flies up. And I was like that scene like hit me because he's just like he is like you see the transformation on his face, and it was pretty amazing. And the other part, like after we were talking about like him flying, I was wondering if flying was like a superpower that only certain people could do because no
Yeah.
one else flies, but they keep talking like they can fly. Like, oh yeah, all you got to do is
I
get a
assume
good
that
like
Tink is
happy
a
thought.
stingy. I assume Tink is a stingy bitch.
But I
With her
didn't
pixie
think
dust. It's only in emergencies, Derek.
Well, see, like I mean, I never read the
Poor
book,
Chris.
but I never read the book, but I saw like the Disney movie, and if that is any part of the canon, they could fly whenever they wanted to. It was just like it was pixie dust was the catalyst. Um, but I guess here, they're with budgeting constraints in like live action, we don't have enough flight for the main character.
No. Well,
Pixie dust is literal gold in this sense.
the big deal is that Pan flies.
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of it trying to get to the point where he can fly. And that's the big breakthrough moment, and that's where everything hinges on. So I think
Well-
it's fair to focus on that.
But he even says like when he's breaking down Rufio, he's like,
Mhm.
"You're just like a Pan wannabe who can't fly." And so it's like interesting. Like so he knew that he couldn't fly. No one else
Yeah.
has flown. Interesting.
Everyone knows. Everyone knows.
Everyone knows. They know you can fly, Rufio.
Yeah, trust me. After all the establishment they did, getting everyone else to understand that he can't fly, I will accept that everyone else takes it on faith. I don't need anyone else to say he can't even fly. Yes, we know he can't even fly. Fucking hell, we're an hour and 15 minutes into this. He can't fly. And Rufio's like, but what? No, Rufio. You can't fucking fly. Quit
He
asking.
doesn't like you that much.
Fuck.
He was kind of antagonistic to Tink, so that probably says
Rufio?
something there. Yeah.
No, everyone is though. I mean, everyone's antagonistic to everyone in this movie. Everyone's kind of a dick in Neverland. Because again, kind of a selfish place.
Mhm.
So, anyway.
So, carrying on along that line, and I thought the epiphany in the tree was a great scene. Yeah, it definitely got me in the feels.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it also harkens back to the fact that when I first saw this movie, right, Hook is trying hooks into Jack. So he takes him to the school, Jack and Maggie, and he says all these awful things. And when I was a kid, I was like, wow, Hook. What a set of awful, obviously untrue things to say. And now I'm like, whoa, Hook, you're giving up the game. Dial it back a little bit. They'll find out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like we're them, like telling the stories and shit.
It's like, your
Like,
parents
yeah.
used to be happy.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's true, but come on, dude.
Yeah, I'm like these are kids. Like, I mean, if you're gonna be that cool, just run them through. I mean, come on.
Are you recruiting for Neverland, Steven Spielberg? Come on.
All right, so
Yeah, it's. I'm just wondering how, as parents, you guys take this movie compared to when you were kids.
I think
Because
it's fine.
significant.
I mean, it's as good as any other like fairy tale. I mean,
It's-
I think it's important. It's important to have real themes, and like that's one of the main grievances I levy to most Western film and Disney is that it's important, even as children, to know you don't always get what you want in the end, but you can still be a better person for the experiences you've had.
You know what movie had that lesson up until the hour mark? Speed Racer.
I'll have to
Sorry.
watch Speed Racer.
I will take
Just the
your
first
word
hour.
for it.
That's just okay. I like Speed Racer just because it
No,
was such like it was like a full throttle kind of like setting joyride.
yeah. It's last thing I'll say on Speed Racer. Like an hour and a half in, like everyone does their best, but they lose anyway, and they're reconciled to that. But they still have each other, so that's what's important. And then someone comes in, they're like overtime, and like he wins the tournament and does everything great, and everything's happy forever. And it's like, oh, okay, it's interesting.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
have to win.
All right.
It's a
So,
good man.
does anyone have anything else to say in the
Oh yeah,
Peter
no.
training montage?
Oh no, I'm done. I'm done with this movie. That's what I said.
The dinner scene was great. The scene where he has the first real breakthrough
Mm.
with his imagination is really it's a good scene.
It
Like
is.
we've kind of harped on the negative here, and we've said a few nice things, but that is a really solid scene. That like Rufio's still kind of bad, but he's still kind of good. Peter comes into his own, and you kind of it feels Neverland feels like fun. I like it. And God help us, the plot starts moving forward.
All right. So the fight.
It's just so poorly blocked. It's just awful. Like, and then like in the middle of it, there's an entire 2-minute interlude for Thud where he does weird things.
Yeah, like the Thud Ball. Yeah, that was kind of waggy.
Hey, dude, do you have a backbone? Because you just broke it.
I mean, they basically did the Saturday Night Live puppet guy thing, where they use the dummy and whoop, legs up.
Yeah, they kind of did. But it's like when they're first chasing Peter, and then there's like 3 dick jokes in a row, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. And then it's like Thud does like a million things because he's a fat kid, and then like they're switching up like the murderous sword fighting with like the wacky fucking Goonies type action.
No,
And it's
one
just
thing.
really weird.
Speaking of Thug, just getting back when
Yeah.
Peter's first in the Lost Boys place, and one of them calls, he's just a fat old man, and Thug goes, he doesn't look that fat to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then even like when they're like exercising, like Thud's like doing all the exercise with him. I'm like, I don't know what's happening, dude. But if you could do all these exercises, I think you're just resigned to your fate. Like you just got to deal with that shit.
No. Yeah, it's. I don't
Kind
know.
of like
The
Terry's
fight
theory
scene-
where nothing ever really rusts or changes in Neverland. Thud came to Neverland fat, and there is no amount of exercise, under eating, or whatever that's going to make that go away.
I mean, some people are like they can be perfectly healthy and carry a lot of extra weight. Like that's the thing that happens. So it's not meh. But it's just weird that they focus on him so much in the fight, and then like the fight just feels really uneven. That's all I really have to say about it. Is that it's really strange.
Yeah, I mean, you've got sometimes the kids are stabbing people or cutting them, and Peter's totally murdering people left and right.
Except when he doesn't.
Except when he doesn't. And usually that's when you're focusing too hard on one guy. That's when he doesn't kill somebody, or his daughter's in there, right there.
Yeah, he doesn't kill the dude in front of his daughter, which I totally get. But the fight between Hook and Rufio is fucking A+.
Oh yeah.
Because Rufio, like, we start with Hook, and Hook is like, I want to get Peter Pan. And Rufio's like, dude, I'm leading the Lost Boys. Rude.
Yeah.
So he's obviously second best, or he feels second best. And so Peter kind of takes everything away from him. And then like he's about to encounter Hook, and Peter Pan lands right beside him. And he's like, nope, I'm going to fight Hook. Ha ha ha. And Rufio's like, dude,
See,
rude.
and it started in such a good place. Like he's like, no, I have Hook, and then his kid calls, and like he doesn't even think twice. He goes like, yes, you are leaving. You have now decided to leave Neverland. Like before it was just all talk, but now you have an action. You have an action that is quintessentially Neverland is not as important to me as my kids and family, and like you can't walk away from it. And then he comes back to be the hero. I'm like, no, fucking let Rufio have this shit. Like he obviously cares more than you do. And like for what? He dies so you say, I wish I had a dad like you? Like we get it. He's a good dad now. Like you didn't have to die, Rufio.
Yeah, I would have hated to have a dad who came to my baseball games.
Well, all right, yeah. So he goes off to take care of Maggie, which takes care of his girl, which totally makes sense. I think, defeating Hook would be a way to get his kids back. So I can see why he would fight Hook, defeat Hook, get your kids. But then he's suddenly aware of her location, and she needs help do that. And so Rufio fights Hook, and Rufio's like, "Yeah, we're doing this. This is the big climactic battle here, and it's gonna be Rufio versus Hook, not fucking Peter Pan." So then, like, you think he's gonna get denied, and then like he gets this fight, and then he fights Hook, and then like he beats Hook, right? Because Hook is like, I got your sword away, and then boom, he does like a cool thing, gets back, and then damn, he's fucking dead, and he's dead so fucking quick. It's really great. It's really effective, and then he dies.
I don't know. I don't feel like it was a good death. Like I feel like it was just like, hey,
Like-
this is kind of like a raw way to tug at your heartstrings kind of thing. Like, I didn't feel like it really was meaningful in any kind of real sense. It was all kind of surface. Like, hey, remember that guy that's kind of likable? He's dead now.
I don't know. I can kind of see that. Like, why did Rufio have to die? Why could Rufio have lived? And I think you could have played it either way. And I said
Yeah.
they decided to go with killing Rufio and then putting Robin Williams in front of a green screen so he could shout no, that they could then edit poorly into the rest
Yeah,
of it.
very poorly.
I mean, I feel like if you just give him just like he deserved a little bit more either characterization or like strife before dying. Like if you were gonna go that route.
I think this is one of those rare instances where I would have been like, you know what, he should have just been injured, and we find out later he makes it out.
Oh yeah.
They take him away, and later on he ends up in the real world, and they see him. He's like the latest orphan.
Yeah.
I kind of see that.
Yeah, I didn't get the whole Bob Hoskins things in the real world too.
I know, right?
But here's the thing. What really bugs me about Rufio's death is that 10 seconds later, completely forgotten. Never brought up again.
Yeah.
Well, no. 10 seconds later, Robin Williams is like, well, it's sad Rufio died. You're kind of a dick, Hook, but my kids are ready to go home now, so bye.
Yeah, peace out.
That's what I'm saying.
And then 5 minutes after that, he's like, I'm going to kill you, Hook, because you killed Rufio and then also kidnapped my kids. And Rufio gets top billing there. So props to him. And then like an alligator kills him, a crocodile, kills him instead. And you're like, that digestion was for Rufio. So it doesn't feel like it comes up again, but it doesn't feel like it's properly avenged. So like you get that Hook is, and you do hate him because I liked Rufio. But then you have like a whole scene where he chooses a new leader for the Lost Boys, which seems completely superfluous. I guess it's like a passing of the torch, but he could have just as easily passed the sword back to Rufio and said, "Hey, you were always as good as I was."
Yeah.
So I guess in that respect, I'm probably not the most impartial judge because as a kid I did have a crush on Rufio. So, and I have a thing for watching the pretty boys die. So I'm probably unfairly predisposed to.
I did not know that thing.
You've never seen him watch Lord of War. Cries like a bitch.
I mean, no, it's not even like a crying. Jared Leto dies a lot, and I'm fond of movies in which he dies, and it's really weird. But it's if I have to talk to a psychologist, it's like number 200 on the list. So it's down there.
Fair enough.
So, well, it's not like I'm worried about them going. Anyway, we're talking about a child, and I was a child at the time. But I feel if we continue down this train, it gets weird.
Speaking of which, Chris, could you set me up for that line?
Oh, Terry.
Oh, come on, Chris.
You can chat it to me, and then Derek and I can talk politely about things for a brief period of time.
Right now,
Derek,
I'm trying to find out who Rufio, what the character's name is, so I can look up a picture so we can see what he looks like now.
Not great. He was actually in Community. No, we're not doing that line, Terry. No. No. That line was funny when you said it because there was no one else to hear it. That's too dark. No.
I don't get it.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll.
That's the yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Alex. I'll explain after we're not live.
And after none of us can be put in jail for the things Terry.
All right. Speaking of, let's wrap this up. I think we're approaching 2 hours.
Yeah, we're
fair
like
enough.
we're like at an hour 20. So, yeah. So
Final thoughts.
final thoughts. Same as my initial thoughts. Like it was a good kids movie, but a lot of crucial flaws make it not a good all ages movie, despite some really valiant efforts.
I think it's averaged out to still be about as good as I remember it. There are some things now, mainly in set, that I never would have noticed as a kid because I didn't care. So that was kind of nice to watch. So yeah, that's it.
It was definitely good.
I'll say that like I definitely enjoyed this movie, and I enjoyed it more than I did as a kid. And I think it definitely works on a lot of levels, and I'm glad that that is the case.
Katie, any final thoughts?
Um,
Reflections.
no, not really. It's pretty much been said.
Alright. Well, I guess that's it. Say goodnight, Terry.
Good night, Terry.
Good night, Terry.